Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're waiting for certain councilors to join. Can those that are on hear me?
Yes,
Thank you.
good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here, just no video yet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Kajowski. So you're there, Councilor Kajowski? You're just working on the video?
Yeah, it's well, I'm having the issue that everyone else was having, but mine has not toggled on yet.
You have to go down to the bottom where it says video and click on.
No, it's the same. It's on the host end that the issue is. My camera's on.
Send an email to Daryl asking him to help you out. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the council meeting of Monday, March the 16th. I'm not sure how you see this on your screen, but all the councilors are present based on a directive from the Premier's office. Council meetings.
Sorry, Mitch, just point of, there's an issue with the audio, and so I don't think the public can hear us.
You can see that on the YouTube version.
That's what somebody's seeing right now. And
Okay. Interesting. We'll wait for some technical support from Daryl Levine. Testing. Yeah, I'm watching the YouTube video and it's not. There's no sound. Testing. Yeah, I'm watching the YouTube video and it's
Okay.
not. There's no sound.
a little delay, but there it is. Okay.
There it is now. Great. Okay, good. All right. Terrific. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now I know that you can all hear me. Welcome to the council meeting of Monday, March the 16th, 2020. Premier Legault's office sent out a directive yesterday allowing all councils to have their meetings online in closed quarters and making votes. We decided we wanted to stream our council meeting in order that the public should be able to see it. And although we can't have an official question period, we asked individuals to send in their questions in advance. There were 2 questions, and we will get to those questions shortly. But I would like to start off by talking about the situation that we're here in Côte Saint-Luc with respect to COVID-19. As you know, this has been a very tough time for all of us. And in Côte Saint-Luc, we have a very specific type of situation to be aware of. Individuals need to realize that in our city, we have the largest number of seniors anywhere in the province. We have over 30% of our population that are seniors. We have more religious institutions, hospitals, and old people's homes, senior residences in our community than probably any community of our size. And our community is a community that comes together and enjoys to be together and celebrate all types of celebrations, whether they be indoors or outdoors. And at this time, unfortunately, this is a big danger. The reality is that this virus can easily be spread through contact. And the type of contact that we're trying to avoid happening in our community is that individuals should not be entering each other's homes unnecessarily. They should not be going to places where they would touch the handle to enter the washroom. And then for 15 hours after they've touched that surface, other individuals can get infected. So far, we've been lucky in Côte Saint-Luc. But as I was speaking to the minister responsible for seniors, Minister Blais, I was sent her an email yesterday telling her about our particular situation because we do have specific concerns, such as the fact that we have seniors in our seniors' homes and our hospitals that need special care by their caregivers. And right now they're not being allowed into those places. We understand that we don't want to infect Maimonides or Mount Sinai or any of the residences in our community, but at the same time, individuals who need to be fed, who need their general care taken by individuals. We have an individual, Cecile Klein. She's the oldest person in Canada. She's 112 years old. She's at Maimonides. And she's lived this long, thankfully, because she has a wonderful family and wonderful caregivers have been able to support her. And we have a concern for her and for so many like her. So we do understand, but we are working with the ministry, expressing our particular needs and asking them to find ways that specific caregivers should be allowed entry, specific caregivers that really are needed. And they need to follow the protocols of the staff workers to ensure that they do not bring COVID-19 into our hospitals and our seniors' homes. And the facilities know who those people are because they know the needs that they have that are very specific. So we're doing what we can here in Côte Saint-Luc, and we're asking you to do what you can. We're asking you to help us not spread this virus into a community that's very vulnerable because of the number of seniors that live in our community, because of the amount of religious institutions that we have in our community, because of the fact that we are on a small territory with many, many people that are used to enjoying each other and celebrating together life. And now we have to change the way we do it. And we're doing that right now in this council meeting. We're doing our business and we're all together on the screen with you in your home, doing what we can to continue to enjoy life and to move things forward. And we're asking you to find ways to do the same. But remember, you may one day, hopefully not, but you could become a carrier, whether you're a child or a young adult, and you don't want to pass it on to individuals who are immunosuppressed or who are senior. And unfortunately, the death rate rises significantly when individuals who are compromised, who are seniors, get the virus. So we're going to keep it out of our city. We're going to do it together, and we're counting on your support. Our first order of business is a resolution that is going to be presented by Councillor Sabag. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this resolution is to call upon the community to take precautions against COVID-19. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Good. Whereas several measures have been taken by the City of Côte Saint-Luc in order to prevent and slow down the spread of the COVID-19 virus, whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc recognizes and appreciates the proactive measures taken by some organizations on its territory to prevent and slow down the virus, whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc has high concentrations of seniors representing over 30% of its population of 34,000, including many snowbirds living in apartments and condo buildings who have been or will be returning home after extended travel. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc is home to 7 large religious institutions and many smaller ones, most of which continue to maintain services and hold celebrations. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc has 3 large shopping centers, several strip malls, office buildings, in addition to many multi-family dwelling with shared facilities with people they interact. Whereas the Quebec government has closed businesses and public spaces across the province, including but not limited to gyms, cinemas, bars, training centers, and recreational sites. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc would like to do everything in its power to contain and prevent the spread of COVID-19 virus. whereas the community organizations and individuals can play a significant role in helping to prevent the spread of the virus, whereas a community resilience is only as strong as its weakest link. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby asks all organizations and community groups in its territory to immediately cease all their activities that gather people physically together and close off communal spaces. The City of Côte Saint-Luc hereby asks all the building managers and condo associations to immediately close all shared facilities and gathered spaces. The City of Côte Saint-Luc asks its residents to follow all provincial recommendations to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 virus, including going into self-isolation for 14 days if returning from a trip abroad, staying home if you're 70-year-old or older, washing hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, avoiding direct contact with people when greeting people, exercising proper cough and sneeze etiquette, if sick, avoiding contact with vulnerable people such as the elderly and the immunocompromised.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any other further discussion? Who would like to speak? Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to speak about the unprecedented response by our country, our province, and by default, the City of Côte Saint-Luc to the coronavirus outbreak. As most of you know, we have taken the necessary steps by activating our emergency preparedness plan and establishing a task force to make sure our city communicates, responds swiftly and adequately, and within our power, acts accordingly. There's no question everyone needs to look at gearing up for a surge in demand of services and have enough resources for the possible long-term disruption of our day-to-day lives. But there is no question the public has a crucial role to play in containing the spread of COVID-19. And I'm happy to move this resolution tonight to ensure we continue to be in the best position to flatten the epidemic curve. For the past several weeks, we have heard of proper guidelines of washing hands and precautionary measures with face masks, etc. These guidelines represent our best judgment, but as the uncertainty of the coronavirus outbreak continues, social distancing and respecting the guidelines are of paramount importance. These steps and recommendations are here to protect the health of the community and may involve significant inconveniences and personal sacrifices. My message to the religious institutions, as well to everybody listening to this, is to make sure that they take extraordinary measure to ensure the safety of their members and the community at large. If they don't, I can assure you the City of Côte Saint-Luc will. We're a wonderful community with very willing and able people that want to help. So I encourage each of you to think through how you can help others and also mitigate the risk of more contamination. I thank you tonight for all your efforts so far, and I encourage you to maintain your vigilance in assisting to prevent further transmission of this disease. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Councillor Burku. I don't know
Yes.
if people seeing it can see that I see everybody, so I see who raises their hand. It's very clear. It's a beautiful system. I'm not sure what you see on YouTube, but Councillor Burku.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as we speak, I've just received a message from my daughter and her family in Berkeley. Berkeley now and many of the counties around San Francisco are on lockdown. People are not to leave their homes and not to do anything unless it's absolutely essential. And we are still fortunate in Côte Saint-Luc that people are not on lockdown yet. But I think that this resolution that we have proposed, that Councillor Sebag has moved and that the council will adopt, is the first step that we're taking in order to tell our residents that they absolutely must be vigilant and absolutely must respect these new guidelines which require social distancing, which require isolation in most cases and many cases, and which require people who are returning home to go into this 14-day quarantine and not to gather in social and religious gatherings, which really are not absolutely required unless there's some other special circumstance. So I hope that this is a difficult time. We know it's a difficult time, but I hope that it's going to be our finest hour. I hope it's going to be a time when our community is going to come together and is going to realize we have to help each other and we have to, fight this together. So thank you. And let's be hopeful and let's keep on doing what we're doing. Very proud of our Quebec government that has done everything possible in the past week. They've been very proactive and we're trying as much as possible to do the same. Thank you.
Councillor Erdely?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if everyone here, I hope you can. I just want to add a few points myself. What we are going through is something unprecedented. Most of us, of course, have lived through the ice storm, through 9/11, but this is something on a scale beyond anything we've seen. That being said, we are working as a team. We're working to prepare on our end with the city council, with the city administrators, with all the staff to make sure we're doing everything we can in our powers to assist with the residents and to make sure that everyone is safe. As Councillor Sabag mentioned, one thing I wanted to add is for the synagogues, we encourage you as much as possible to try to go online. It's something I know the schools are doing, or many of the schools are doing. If there's a wedding, do it, have it live streamed. If there's a bar mitzvah, have it live streamed. I just watched a bar mitzvah from New York that is live streamed. And in the future, at least for the short term, is going to be this model. We hope everyone will do their best to avoid leaving their house, to avoid going into large gatherings, to try to do social distancing as much as you can. The point is that we want to make sure that everyone is safe, especially those that are over 70 years old. I can share, I spoke to my parents a few days ago about this, and at first they sort of were not taking it as seriously. So for those of you that are, let's say in my age group, that have to deal with children, have to deal with parents, try to do your best to make sure both your children are safe and that they are not taking part in play dates because we don't want them spreading it. Children tend to be the biggest spreaders in a situation like this, and we want to keep the children as much as possible, and I hate to say it, distance from their parents, or sorry, not their parents, distance from their grandparents. So if you can have your children connect with their grandparents through Skype, through FaceTime, through Google, whatever means possible, please do that. As the mayor mentioned, we have about 30% of our population that are 70 and over, and we want to make sure they are safe. And I hope that everyone listening, both live and watching this, will heed this message, and of course, we'll try to follow through on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Cohen, and then Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor, Oren Sabag, our public safety portfolio, Tanya Abramovich, and our entire senior management team, and Darrell Levine, our jack of all trades, for finding the ways all the time for us to communicate with our public, like I would say probably no other municipality in this province is able to do. And tonight is an example. Tonight, we are setting the example of social distancing. We could have met in City Hall tonight. We had a plan where we were going to be 6 feet apart, but thanks to Darrell and thanks to members of this council, we've been communicating on this for the past week. We've had a conference calls over the last couple of days. We've done it through video, and we found a way, a unique way with the power of the Quebec government to go forward with city business. And I would say that this mode of making decisions for the city is probably putting more eyes on a council meeting than ever before. And I hope in the future, when we're able to return back in public and things normalize, that people will continue to watch us. But thank you to everyone. I want to give a message to all citizens, but particularly in my district too, where residents, many residents of Rembrandt Avenue and Marc Chagall in particular, are snowbirds and are in Florida and are coming back. Many are perhaps not watching the news. It's not as bad in Florida as it is in other places. And please, please, I beg of you to do what Premier Legault says. And if you come back, please isolate yourself for 14 days. You're either driving through cities that possibly have outbreaks of COVID-19, or you are taking an airplane. And we saw on the news the last couple of days that there's no social distancing at airports. So that is of great concern. So I hope that message is brought true. I also want to commend our merchants in Côte Saint-Luc. Now, I've been to all the shopping centers and the pharmacies over the weekend, and yes, it's a madhouse. The major big box stores in our community are lined up. There's nothing left. I want to remind everyone that some of our smaller merchants, our smaller size merchants, like Quality Fruits, like Caldwell Provisions, like the Farmer Pre on Caldwell, they are not price gouging. They are also got nice stock, and you don't have to line up. There's no lineups. So instead of standing in line at IGA for more than an hour and complaining about the cost of toilet paper, please take a look at some of our small merchants who are doing their part. So thank you very much, and we'll continue to communicate. Please stay tuned to our social media. And of course, I'll be blogging on my site, MikeCohen.ca, for my constituents of the community at large. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Torgman.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to reiterate the thanks to the great staff that we have and all of the fantastic work that's been going on. A shout out to all of the community leaders that have been organizing within the synagogues to communicate with the seniors. We have our bonjour, hello call from the city, but a lot of the synagogues are making these calls as well to their congregants. Reach out to your local synagogue and see if you can help out in making those daily calls. I know they're also trying to organize for deliveries of groceries to some of their the seniors that attend these congregations. And just a last point to reiterate, social distancing is critical. You may not get sick, but the people that you get sick may not make it through. And that's what you have to consider very heavily. So unfortunately, celebrations need to be avoided for everybody. And that's just a general statement. And again, thank you to the mayor and council and to all of the staff for the fantastic work.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Anyone else wish to speak? So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. This is an excellent system. I see each councillor and they put up their hand. I don't have to look to my right or left. You're right in front of me. So I am going to go to question period right now. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. I didn't realize how good this would be in terms of the YouTube. I do have it open on another screen, so I see all your comments. Of course, I have to concentrate on the agenda and all the councillors, but I'm going to try to follow that too. So the first questions that came in, however, were earlier in the day. One was dealing, how do I renew my parking permit during this time? So first of all, you can call 485-6800 anytime, and all our staff are working, so you can always get answer to your questions. But I was told that you can e-transfer to pay for your parking pass. There's a way to do it, and there's a way to pay for it online. But for the exact details, call the city at 485-6800. Another question was, they're noticing that there's more garbage today than usual in our public bins. And the answer to that is due to the situation with COVID-19. A lot of staff members had come back from vacation, spring break, and are on 14-day quarantines. We do have a bit of a staff shortage, but things are going to be picking up and people will be coming back to work. In the meantime, they're going to take a close note of that. But if you have any other questions concerning Public Works, you can call 485-6868 or email publicworks@cotesaintluc.org. I'm going to take a quick look at the YouTube page and see if there's something here. Many seniors are still leaving their homes. City needs to reinforce tonight with building managers and doormen. Thank you. We're working on it. We're also looking at what legal recourses we may have under the City and Towns Act with our right to invoke an urgent situation in our city, and we're checking that out. But every day it changes. Just yesterday, we thought we would have to meet 6 feet apart in our council chamber based on the laws in place in Quebec. And because of the change that came in yesterday, we're meeting online. So hopefully we'll have more powers with respect to individuals or organizations that don't follow the recommendations. Yeah, it's a tough one. 70-year-old plus individuals not listening to the recommendations. Well, I would really ask their children and their grandchildren to try to do anything in their power to get them to listen, because these are your loved ones. And yes, it's wonderful to say we're going to call the police and we're going to have different restrictions and be able to do things. But the people that will have the most influence on those that are 70 plus are their family. So please understand the importance of not going near them. If you need to bring groceries, which you should, call in advance, bring them to the door. Don't bring the grandchildren into the house. Let them call them later on Skype, on Facebook Messenger, interact that way, but encourage all 70-year-olds and over, and even those that are younger, specifically if they have immunosuppressed diseases, they're taking medications that reduce their immune system, make sure not to bring those that might be infected to them. And that really is a responsibility of family and friends. And be a good friend, be a good neighbor. If you're at IGA and you know of a senior, they might not be your relative, but you know they're staying home, give them a call and see if they need something to be dropped by. What do we have here? Lots of snowbirds coming back, and we hope that they're listening. And if they're not, please help us share a message. I did do a video message this afternoon that Daryl Levine will be editing and we'll post. We have our public security director, Philippe Chateauvert, that's dealing with all these issues in terms of where to call, what to post. And everything's constantly being updated in terms of our emergency plan, the way individuals what the numbers to call and what to do in terms of an emergency, or if there's anybody that is concerned that they might need to be tested. Everything is being posted online. Yes, not only is Côte Saint-Luc organizing right now different things that they can do for the seniors, but we're very pleased with some of the emails I'm getting from different organizations and religious institutions offering to help the seniors. But we're also, in addition to the general stuff, we're looking at this type of programming where you can help your parents or your grandparents if you can hook them up, because we're looking at different ways that the library and Parks and Recreation could bring programming into individuals' homes. So if you can help your parents and grandparents have technology that can allow them to get online books, to get online information from the city, we're thinking of all types of programs that we would be sharing online. We are doing the best we can with respect to the question that is to ensure seniors that are alone are not getting food or medicine. Thankfully, we had what's called the Smart City Village Initiative program. And during that time, we tried to determine which seniors in our community are isolated and don't have any family or friends. So we know some. We're not sure that we know them all, but we're certainly following up on those individuals that we know are isolated. It's all, yeah, I'm reading the questions. I'm sure you guys are too, but I don't think the counselors see them all. So, because they don't necessarily have two screens like I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the rest of the council meeting. We will always be available to answer your questions. You know, all our email addresses, you know, Oren Sabag. So it's sabag@cotesaintluc.org, who's running all the emergency service portfolio. You know, my email address, mbrownstein@cotesaintluc.org. You can ask me questions anytime, and all the other counselors, as well as Philip Chateauvert, who's our public security director. And all of our email addresses are on our website. So please reach out to all of us and we'll see what we can do. And we're working on emergency plan and our ACC, all the questions that I see that you're asking, we're working on all of that stuff. So we will continue. And as I say, every day there'll be new updates. So now I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. Item 2A, approval of the minutes of the meeting of February the 10th, 2020. Councillor Cohen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I so move the approval of the minutes for February 10th, 2020.
And the minutes of the special meeting of February 18th, 2020.
And I so move for the minutes of February 18th, 2020.
Seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Speak so people can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Everybody put their hand up. Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. Any business arising from the minutes? The monthly departmental reports, moved by Councillor Kajowski.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Cohen.
I second the motion.
Is there any urgent business in the departmental reports that should be discussed? Okay, so moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we'll move to the Eleanor London Public Library 5A. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just clicking back and forth. That bylaw 2552 entitled Bylaw Creating the Fee Schedule of the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library for April 2020 to August 2020 be is and hereby adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Seconded by Councillor Benizri. Just speak, Councillor Benizri.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to item number 6, which is financial services. Item 6A and B, Jonathan Schechter, our Director of Legal Services and Co-City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So pursuant to Article 513 of the Act respecting elections and referendums in municipalities, I hereby confirm that the treasurer has indeed tabled before the council of the municipality a report on his operations related to elections for the preceding fiscal year. Again, I am confirming that that has indeed been tabled. And I'd like to further confirm to you, Mr. Mayor, that the list of reimbursement of council research and support expenses for 2019 has also indeed been tabled by our city treasurer.
Thank you, Maitre Schechter. And now we move to item 6C, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of February 1st to the 29th for a total amount of $3,907,092.13, and that Treasurer Certificate number 20-0056 dated March 6th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to the next item, which is the awarding of a contract for the purchase of computers. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to Dell Canada for the purchase of computers for a total amount of $60,000 plus applicable taxes. that described expense shall be financed in whole from the city's working fund as a non-interest bearing loan, that the city shall provide every year out of its general fund a sum sufficient to repay the loan back into the working fund, that the terms of repayment shall not exceed 5 years, and that Treasurer Certificate number 20-0058 dated March 9th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? You're all in favor?
Yes.
One of the councillors picked up their hand a little late.
It was just, there was a video delay, I'm sorry.
Oh, video delay. Okay, so everybody's in favor, carried unanimously. All right, now we move to item number 7A. A motion proposing a moratorium on the merger of Police Station 9 and 11. Councillor Burku.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to revert back to the document. Okay. I'm not going to read all the whereases, but I just want to read the first two so that we understand what we're talking about. Whereas Montrealers have been well served by an innovative community policing model put in place by the Montreal Urban Community Council in the 1990s after extensive public consultation. Whereas this model, based on giving greater priority to crime prevention over repression, inviting dialogue with community organizations, setting up of local consultative committees, and assuring citizens easy access to local neighborhood police stations, enjoys overwhelming support from citizens. We know that we have two neighborhood police stations. One is Station 9, which is here in Côte Saint-Luc. The other one is Station 11, which is in Côte-Neige-NDG. Whereas as news of the merger leaked out recently, public outrage has grown with the mayors of Côte Saint-Luc, Hampstead publicly opposing the plan. And with the launch of significant community mobilization, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, including a community petition opposed to the merger, which has already gathered nearly 2,500 signatures. Whereas the comments of the executive committee in charge of public security that Station 9 cannot remain open as the SPVM, the police department, has not renewed the lease on the police station on Summerled, creates an impression of bad faith and lack of concern for the opinions of local citizens and local elected officials. Whereas the Public Security Commission has held no meetings on the specific issue of the closure of Station 11 and its merger into Station 9, nor on the more general issue as to the future of community policing in Montreal. Be it resolved that a one-year moratorium on the closing of Station 11 and its merger into Station 9 be decreed, commencing on the date of adoption of this motion, and that the Public Security Commission be mandated to hold public sessions focusing on both the future of community policing in Montreal and the specific issue of the merger of Station 9 and 11, and that in completing its work, that the Public Security Commission host at least one public meeting in the Notre-Dame-de-Grâce neighborhood and one in the city of Côte Saint-Luc. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor, where is he? Kaczowski.
That's me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Georgeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think there was a miss on the part of the SPVM to disseminate proper information. I think, as many others do, that think that this is a positive move for Côte Saint-Luc, a positive move for the communities, the adjoining communities. It'll improve efficiencies, and we'll end up having more officers available for all of our communities, rather. I think we need more information. I think we need to have further discussion. I agree with that, but I don't think a one-year moratorium is a good way to go. I think we should be working with the SPVM on this one rather than fighting them.
Okay, I'd like to speak on it. I was hoping for a unanimous support on this resolution, so I certainly am disappointed. I think that as a person who's been very involved with the demerger of cities and understands that smaller is better, it seems quite clear to me that we know what we have right now is unique and beautiful. We have a station that represents 50,000 people, the city of Côte Saint-Luc being 35,000 of those people. And we have a commander, all our past commanders have treated us as the most important, coming to all of our council meetings, being there to listen to the concerns and answer the questions. We've had bilingual status, which we would lose if we become that a part of this 120,000 person station. There was always a big fight to have signage in front of the station because we wanted a neighborhood station that was in French and English. That's gone. But far beyond that, the service that we get when we have a neighborhood station is very unique. We have sociocoms that understand the needs of not only the Anglophone community, but the Francophone, Italian community, Holocaust survivors. They get it. They know what they're dealing with, and they're available, and they deal with maybe not the biggest crime. Maybe we get the officers that are happy to work in a community that doesn't have as much crime. But as soon as we merge with the station number 11, where most of the crime is happening in NDG, no matter how many extra officers we're going to have, they're all going to go to where the action is. There's a stabbing, there's a murder, there's a rape. It's happening outside of Côte Saint-Luc. And all these police officers are going to be taken out of our city. We have the support on this issue of our former mayor and member of parliament, Anthony Housefather, who dealt with the same issue in 2007 and stopped that merger, along with Bill Steinberg, who was the mayor at the time in Hampstead, and with Mayor Campbell, who was the mayor there, Campbell Stewart. We have the support of David Birnbaum and Kathleen Wheel, the MNAs that represent the district. So I think if the federal, provincial levels and the mayors have concerns, and we know what we have now is great, and the location of the station, whether it's staying for now, we know that it's moved 3 times in Côte Saint-Luc in the last 15 years. It was on Côte Saint-Luc Road, then it went to Cavendish, and now it's on Westminster. So we need a plan for the long term, and we need to make sure that our station stays in Côte Saint-Luc for the long term, not that it can move somewhere else in NDG. So for all those reasons, and for the most important reasons, in that we were not consulted, an inspector showed up in my office one day, not telling me why he was coming. And then when he arrived, he said, well, I have some news for you. We're merging. That's not the way you deal with cities and mayors and councillors. You have proper consultation. You consult with the residents. You consult with the elected officials. You get feedback, and then you decide if this is the right way to go. So all we're asking for is a moratorium and a proper study by the Public Safety Commission of the issue. I spoke today, I was on the phone with Councillor Rosiani Filato, the public security councillor responsible for this file. I was on the file with Anthony Housefather. I was on the phone with Anthony Housefather and Bill Steinberg, and we were explaining to her that especially now with COVID-19, where there can't be any consultation, you need to have a moratorium and wait and let this pass and have a chance for the public to be consulted and the elected officials to give their buy-in. So for all those reasons, I ask for a moratorium and I ask for consultation on the issue. That's what the resolution is asking for. Anybody else would like to speak? Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to add that I agree with the mayor on his points, but I want to say a few more points. First, my belief is that if the stations were to merge into this larger new station, then the vast majority of the cars and vehicles would end up going towards the Côte-Neige NDG area, and we'd have less coverage in Côte Saint-Luc. That is my belief. At the same time, I want to be clear that if the merger does take place, we want the station to be in Côte Saint-Luc. We want it to be at the location of Station 9 and definitely not in the Côte-Neige NDG area. There is already Station 26 there. If that were to happen, Côte Saint-Luc, of course, would have no station. So I want to be unequivocal in that if the merger does take place, in spite of our request for a moratorium, then we want to make sure that it is in Côte Saint-Luc, and ideally at the location where it is on Westminster Côte Saint-Luc Road. It's in the heart of the district that is often underserved, and we want to make sure that Côte Saint-Luc residents feel safe and secure by having the station on our territory. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Anyone else? Councillor Sabag?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree with your points, Mr. Mayor, that there should have been a certain way to approach this and announce it to us a certain way, whether it's by consultation, with residents, with yourself, with the council. The reality is that we presently have a station that is not working 24 hours a day. I think there is an advantage of having a larger station that works around the clock in Côte Saint-Luc. I do agree also that we should keep, like Councillor Erdely said, that we should have and make sure that the station remains in Côte Saint-Luc. I personally think our city is getting denser. Our city has a lot more activity that could be viewed as, I guess, an evolution in crime, I should say, and we need proper coverage, which requires 24 hours a day. Having Station 11 cover remotely off hours is nice, but now we have our own that might that should stay here and might be able to cover 24/7. So I want to also listen to what our director of public safety said, that there is an advantage in terms of operational expertise that the station is going to bring to our city, and that's why I'll be voting against this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Any other comments? Councillor Cohen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have had the chance to talk to our new commander and some officials from the police about this. I can see it from both ways. I do think that what a lot of people don't realize is that first and foremost, where the station is located right now, it's virtually on the border of NDG. And there's another station that covers Snowden and Côte-des-Neiges that's right off of Jean Talon. However, I'll vote in favor of this resolution because I do agree with you. We know in Côte Saint-Luc that we go overboard if sometimes for consultation. Consultation is absolutely important. And right now with this COVID-19 pandemic, even the consultation meeting that was going to take place cannot. So I was in favor of delaying because I felt we should put a moratorium for a consultation. Now that we're in this pandemic, which could go on for quite an extended period of time, it's not the time to push through such a merger. So I'll support this, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Anyone else? Okay, so moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried with Councillor Torgman and Councillor Sabag dissenting. Now we move on to, where are we at? Number 7. Human Resources. 8A, Councillor Kajavsky. Councillor Kajavsky, 8A. You need to unmute. You got it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just switching screens. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the appointment of Octavian Goutou as a Côte Saint-Luc Aquatics Masters head coach and coach for adult swim lessons, men only, into a management position for a fixed term contract effective January 3rd, 2020 to January 3rd, 2021. That Treasurer's Certificate number 20-0053 dated March 4th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajavsky. Seconded by?
Seconded.
Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to 8B. Councillor Benizri, 8B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approve the appointment of Mark Pitarelli to the superior function of Operator of Motorized Equipment A, effective February 4, 2020. That Treasurer's Certificate number 20-0047 dated February 24, 2020, has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Benizri, seconded by. Who'd like to second it?
I can second it.
Seconded.
Councillor Kajewski.
Okay.
Any discussion? Moved and seconded, all in favor? Councillor Sabag? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item 8C. Councillor Kajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of the white-collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document entitled Auxiliary Employees White-Collar Hiring dated March 3rd, 2020, and that said employees' terms of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement. That Treasurer's Certificate number 20-0052 dated March 4th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kajewski, seconded by
Second.
Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
It's a resolution to hire most of the camp staff, which we hope begins on time.
We hope so. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item number D, which is Councillor Burku.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going to read the resolution. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc Council approves the hiring of Emanuela Cliogieri as a legal student in the Purchasing Department Management Contract position for a fixed term effective from February 4th, 2020 to February 2nd, 2021. That Treasurer's Certificate number 20-0048 dated February 24th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Torgman. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to 8E. Councillor Burku, 8E.
Okay. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc Council approves the hiring of Marie-Josée Jaffrion as an admission of permit clerk, white-collar permanent position in the Urban Development Department effective February 3rd, 2020. The Treasurer's Certificate number 20-0049 dated February 24th, 2020 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Torgman. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move to legal services. Legal services 9A, which is the appointment of Councillor Mike Cohen as the acting mayor. Councillor Torgman.
Mike Cohen soit et est par les présents nommé maire suppléant pour la ville de Côte Saint-Luc pour la période débutant le 1er avril 2020 jusqu'au 30 juin 2020 inclusivement et que le conseiller Cohen ait par les présents les pouvoirs d'exercer le rôle du maire lorsque le maire est absent ou dans l'impossibilité d'exercer ses tâches d'office.
Proposé par le conseiller Torgman et appuyé par le conseiller Sebag.
You might want to say a couple of words on that, like you usually do, Mayor.
Yeah, it's okay. Today's Mike Cohen's going to do a great job, especially during this crisis when we need to have very good communications with the public. So I'm glad to have you on there as my assistant. But remember that the acting mayor is only acting in the absence of the mayor. I'm going nowhere.
Well, we need our mayor healthy and in his role during this crisis, but we're all behind you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Now we move to item 9B. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Welcome, Councillor Cohen as the acting mayor. Item 9B, Councillor Burku.
Just see if I'm muted or not. Oh, okay, I'm on. Thank you. Be it resolved, the Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby authorizes city to pay an invoice amounting to $19,078.70, including applicable taxes, from the firm of Bélanger Sauvé for the case entitled Immeuble Canadian Pacific et al. Versus City Côte Saint-Luc, bearing docket number 500-0507-2299-025. That the treasurer's certificate TC 20-0046 dated February 12, 2020 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses, and that said funds shall be extracted from the GL account entitled Professional Services Legal, then ultimately has to come out of the GL account entitled Reserve for Lawsuits. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So, well, this is involving the case which revolves around Meadowbrook. It's been going on for the past over 20 years, or close to 20 years. And slowly we are, finalizing all the details because it was just recently revived again. And we're hoping that we're going to get a court date very soon. But in the meantime, there are legal proceedings that need to be taken. And so we have to pay the lawyers for that service.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move into some filings. It's items 9C, D, and E. Maitre Schechter, our Co-City Manager, Director of Legal Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first document I would like to file is a correction pursuant to Article 92.1 of the Cities and Towns Act. We are just making our bylaw in the electoral districts consistent in the English version with the maps and with the French version of the bylaw. There were two clerical corrections that were made. One related to Omont, referring to it as a park, and one referred to a boundary line being the southwest instead of the southeast. So in both cases, the clerical corrections are hereby tabled. Now, the other two documents to table are certificates of results from loan bylaw registers. Both registers were called for and held on March 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2020. One related to bylaw 2550, entitled Bylaw 2550 concerning the purchase and installation of baseball field fences at Pierre Elliott Trudeau Park, situated at 6975 Mackle Road, and the application of the sum of $74,000 taken from the available balance of Bylaw 2480 in view of financing an expense of $74,000. Another result from the same register was related to Bylaw 2551 concerning the purchase and installation of sound baffling for the indoor pool at Aquatic and Community Center situated at 5794 Parkhaven Avenue in the application of the sum of $128,000 taken from the available balance of Bylaw 2480 in view of financing an expense of $128,000. In both cases, the number of persons qualified to vote were 22,945. In both cases, the number of signatures of persons qualified to vote required to make the holding of a referendum poll obligatory was 2305. In both cases, the number of persons qualified to vote who registered was 0. Therefore, both bylaws have been deemed approved by the persons qualified to vote.
Thank you, Maitre Schechter.
Thank you.
And now we move on to item 9F. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved, the bylaw 2554, entitled Bylaw 2554, instituting a water filter rebate program, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Ben-Isri. Any discussion?
So just in a nutshell, this is finalizing the bylaw that sets in place the $50 rebate for those people purchasing either a pour-through filter, a faucet-mounted filter, or a countertop filter, or a separate filter that's attached to the tap or for a refrigerator as well. So it delineates the $50 fee and the bylaw behind it. Thank
So
you.
now that this bylaw is passed, any individuals who've made requests for $50 rebate for the filters that remove lead from their water will be able to receive their payment. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and we move on to item G. Councillor Cohen, this is a notice of motion and a tabling, so it's just you, Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to look over to my other computer here. I wish to give notice of motion that bylaw 2553 to be entitled bylaw 2553, amending bylaws 2394, 2508, and 2539 in order to oblige all cats and dogs to be microchipped on the territory of Côte Saint-Luc will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. I'd also like to mention that the object and scope of bylaw 2053 to be entitled bylaw 2053, amending bylaws 2394, 2508, and 2539 in order to oblige all cats and dogs to be microchipped in the territory of Côte Saint-Luc. Should I now do the second part?
Yeah, the tabling.
Okay, so I wish to table draft bylaw 2553 to be entitled bylaw 2553, amending bylaw 2394, 2508, 2539 in order to oblige all cats and dogs to be microchipped on the territory of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. And now we'll move on to item number 10, Parks and Recreation. Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for services and supply for the preparation, resurfacing, and maintenance of the Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club courts to PC Court Inc. for an amount of $184,510 plus applicable taxes, including the option years. That the amount for the 2020 year is $35,460 plus applicable taxes, and the amounts for the option years of the contract, if exercised by the city, will be as follows: 2021, $35,460 plus applicable taxes; 2022, $37,240 plus applicable taxes; 2023, $37,240 plus applicable taxes; 2024, $39,110 plus applicable taxes. That the city reserves its rights in its discretion to exercise the optional years 2021, 22, 23, and 24. That Treasurer Certificate number TC-20-0057 dated March 6, 2020 has been issued by the Manager of Financial Operations, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses for the 2020 year. That Treasurer Certificates will be issued at the beginning of each option year of the contract if the city decides to exercise that option year.
Thank you, Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Sabag, I believe.
Yes, seconded.
That's for that. Okay. Is any discussion on that?
I think it's self-explanatory.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor? Councillor Cohen, are you in favor? Okay. All right. Thank you. So carried unanimously. Then we move to item 11, which is Public Works. 11A, Councillor Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, par la présente, exerce les 4 années optionnelles du contrat conclu en vertu de l'appel d'offres numéro C-01-19-24 pour la collecte et le transport des matières secondaires recyclables octroyées antérieurement à Environnement Routier NRJ Incorporé, et ce pour la période entre le 1er avril 2020 et le 31 mars 2024. Que les montants estimés de chaque année optionnelle sont les suivants. Première année, $338 369 et 11 cents plus les taxes applicables. Deuxième année, $345 136 et 49 cents plus les taxes applicables. Troisième année, $352 039 et 22 cents plus les taxes applicables. Et la quatrième année, $359 080 plus les taxes applicables. Que le certificat du trésorier numéro TC 20-0016 daté du 31 janvier 2020 a été émis par la responsable des opérations financières attestant la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites pour l'année 2020. que des certificats du trésorier seront émis en début de chaque année du contrat pour attester la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses pour l'année respective.
Merci, conseiller Benizri, proposé pour le conseiller Benizri, appuyé par le conseiller, je pense que c'est Burkou. OK, merci, Madame Burkou. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions? No? Okay, so moved and seconded, all in favor. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and then we move to item 11B. Councillor Benizri, this is a notice of motion and a table.
Oui, exactement. Alors, c'est un avis de motion. Je donne avis de motion que le règlement 2537 à être intitulé règlement 2537 régissant la collecte et l'élimination des matières résiduelles sera présenté à une réunion subséquente pour adoption. Alors ça c'est l'avis de motion. Et là maintenant, je dépose le projet de règlement 2537 intitulé règlement 2537 régissant la collecte et l'élimination des matières résiduelles.
Merci. Okay, so that's it. That's the notice of motion tabling. Now we move to item number 12, which is the purchasing and general counsel. Maitre Schechter.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to confirm that at tonight's meeting, the yearly report on the application of bylaw number 2497 entitled Bylaw Concerning Contract Management for the 2019 calendar year dated March 16th, 2020 has been tabled tonight by the municipality at tonight's regular council meeting.
Thank you, Maitre Schechter. And now we move on to item number 13, Urban Development, Engineering Division. 13A, Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make sure I'm not on mute. All right. Whereas the city, that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract for the professional services regarding Samuel Moscovich Arena roof repair to Englobe Corp, the lowest bidder under the law, for the amount of $39,040 plus applicable taxes. That awarding the aforementioned contract shall be the subject of the approval of the loan bylaw 2544 by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation du Québec. That the issuance of the treasurer certificate by the city treasurer to attest the availability of funds to cover the described expenses is conditional upon the approval of the aforementioned loan bylaw by the Ministry of Ministère des Affaires Municipales de l'Habitation.
Thank you, Councillor Torchman. Seconded by Councillor Burkou. Councillor Burkou. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any discussion? Otherwise, it's all in favor.
Sure.
Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And then we move to item 13B. 13B is again Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby declares the bid received from Groupe Civitas documentarily non-conforming. Therefore, this bid is rejected. That pursuant to the terms of the tender number C-09-20P, the City Council hereby awards to the contract to IGF Axiom, the lowest conforming bidder, for a total amount of $60,200 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2521, and that the treasurer certificate number TC-20-0055 dated March 5, 2020 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Burkou. Councillor Burkou, we only see your glasses. You should adjust your camera. Everybody just sees you like to hear when you speak. Lower the camera so they can see you the whole thing. Okay. So that's moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Burkou. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor or not? Okay, yeah. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Then we move to item number 13C, Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract for the professional services regarding the elaboration of an intervention plan for the tech grant, Tech 2019 and to 2023 grant to Shellex, the lowest bidder under the law, for a total amount of $35,000 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw TECQ 2019 to 2023, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation. That the treasury certificate number TC 20-0051 dated March 4, 2020 has been issued by the Manager of Financial Operations, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torgman, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. I'm noticing everybody wears glasses but Mitch. When I see it on camera, I never saw it before. Yeah, very interesting. All right, so that was.
I'll go put my glasses on if you like.
No, it's okay. Good for you. Stay young and have good eyes. Item number 13D is deferred. Item number 13E goes Stephen Erdely. 13E.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City Council hereby awards a contract for upgrading the public streetlights and converting the public streetlights to LEDs in accordance with the terms of tender C-02-19-20C to the lowest conforming bidder, namely Neolect, for a total amount of $2,184,739.50 plus applicable taxes. The $950,000 plus applicable taxes of described expense shall be financed from loan bylaw 2523, and $1,343,476.48 plus applicable taxes shall be financed from loan bylaw 2552, subject to the approval of the Ministère des Affaires municipales et Habitation. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 5% plus applicable taxes for potential contingencies and extras if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures, and that treasurer certificate number TC-20-0050 dated March 4th, 2020 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Erdely. Seconded by Councillor Gajowski. Any discussion?
So I won't go into too much detail, but other than to say this is the next phase in the switching of our streetlights to LEDs. This involves mostly the Cobra heads, which are the streetlights that are on Cavendish, on Kildare, on Côte Saint-Luc Road, replacing the poles, the bases, and the fixtures. And long-term, of course, it'll result in savings of electricity. And of course, it'll be more efficient lighting and a benefit to the city as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. I know Daryl's trying to do something now. What he's trying to, oh, he did it. Okay, he's trying to move the screen so that you can see the councilors raising their hands. Worked. Excellent. Okay, so the next item is item number 14. Item 14A, Councillor Kajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just read the preambles very quickly. Whereas the provincial government, through Law 56, requires municipalities with greater than 15,000 residents to adopt an action plan for the disabled, outlining the steps that are to be taken to ensure the complete integration of residents, visitors, and employees with physical and/or mental disabilities. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc puts great emphasis on ensuring the accessibility of city services to its residents, visitors, and employees. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby adopts the 2020 Action Plan for the Disabled Community, said plan dated March 16, 2020, and comprising 52 pages. That council hereby requests that said action plan be made available to any resident, visitor, or employee who wishes to consult said plan or obtain a copy thereof. That council hereby requests that, in addition, a copy of said plan be deposited for consultation in the city's archives and at the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library. Pardon me.
Moved by Councillor Kachowski, seconded by Councillor Burku. Oh, Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
Just very briefly, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the provincial government requires us to have an action plan for the disabled. And just to name a couple of things that we have done recently, and at the Aquatic Center, we've installed handicap buttons. We have a new adult changing table at the ACC, as well as a lift so that clients of the care center housed at the Wager building can use our indoor pool. We have a new ramp at the outdoor swimming pool at Park Haven Pool, which hopefully we'll get to use very soon once the snow melts. And there are recreation and library programs as well for the differently abled.
Thank you. Thank you, Kachowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Cohen didn't vote. You're in favor. Okay. Excellent. Carried unanimously. Now we move on to item number 14.1, the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program. Councillor Burku. (612) Westminster.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received November 18, 2019, showing elevations for the construction of a 4-story multifamily dwelling on lot 1290402 at 612 Westminster and prepared by Group PDA Architects for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of November 25, 2019, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 in the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion?
So you'll notice from the resolution that this came to committee and was approved by the PAC in November, then came to council committee in December. And we put up a sign on the property explaining the new construction. The neighbors were also advised, and we feel that at this point in time, it's a very narrow lot. It's a very difficult lot, but it's something that is zoned for multifamily dwelling. And so we are going to try and accommodate the owners in order to allow this lot to house 3 dwelling units. And there's a whole series of minor exemptions that are going to come up in the next resolution that are going to allow the owners in order to build this property.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. So moved and seconded, all in favor? All in favor? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item B, which is 6525 Côte Saint-Luc Road. Councillor Burku.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for an apartment building on Côte Saint-Luc Road. Be it resolved, the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Programs received January 15th, 2020, showing the removal of the existing penthouse unit solarium and its replacement by 2 patio doors, transformation of the penthouse into 2 units on lot 1560739 at 6525 Côte Saint-Luc, prepared by Mr. G. Gurgis, architect for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of January 21st, 2020, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So this is basically a subdivision of a penthouse apartment into 2 apartments on the top floor of the apartment building.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to item number C, 7946 Wavell. Councillor Burku.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is concerning Yavne School. Je vais le lire en français peut-être. Il est résolu que le plan d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale reçu le 5 février 2020 montrant la construction d'une structure préfabriquée temporaire sur le côté nord-est, bâtiment institutionnel sur le lot 105-1943 au 79-46 Wavell est préparé par conception distincte architecture pour la réunion du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 18 février 2020 soit approuvé conditionnellement que toutes les exigences liées à la sécurité, comme l'installation de gicleurs, le système d'alarme incendie, doivent être installées dans la structure temporaire préfabriquée et conformément aux dispositions du chapitre 14 du règlement 2217 de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. I think this is your district.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so basically this is supposedly, or it's intended to be a temporary installation, not in order to allow the school to expand, its premises. However, we have been very clear in asking for all the safety rules to be respected because it is going to house students. And so we're talking about sprinklers, fire alarm system. They must be installed in the temporary prefab structure. And we will allow it to integrate with the rest of the building. It does look like it's going to be well integrated.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Minor exemptions. 14.2A, Councillor Burke.
So we're back to 612 Westminster, the building I spoke about before. So here's a long list of derogations because it's a very narrow lot. And the owners had to squeeze this multi-dwelling building into this narrow lot. So here's the list of derogations. In accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 612 Westminster, lot 1290402, be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow for a proposed 4-story multifamily dwelling to be located at 4 feet from the southeast side landline instead of the minimum required setback of 15 feet where there are no windows. 2, to be located 15 feet from the northwest side landline instead of the minimum required setback of 20 feet where there are windows. To be located 15 feet from the front landline instead of the minimum front setback of 25 feet. To be located 8.5 feet from the rear landline instead of the minimum required setback of 15 feet. Number 5, to allow parking area at the back of the building to be located 1.5 feet from the rear landline instead of the minimum required distance of 6 feet. Number 6, to have 4 interior parking spaces instead of minimum required 6 interior parking spaces, 2 parking spaces with a length of 18 feet and 1 with 15 feet instead of the minimum length required of 20 feet. Number 7, to have no visitor parking area instead of a required visitor parking area for a minimum of 10 parking spaces. I think that would have been a bit exaggerated for a building this size. In any event, we're exempting them from that requirement. And to have a land coverage ratio of 38.62% instead of the maximum required land coverage of 37%. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex C Articles 7-5, 7-2-5, 7-2-9, and 7-5-1.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Erdely.
Yeah, so I just want to explain, it's unfortunate. I don't think we have the ability to put the perspective up on the screen. Maybe we can do that at the next meeting. We can figure that out. But this is basically a building that's being squeezed into the lot on Westminster, just south of the strip mall. at the corner of, what's the name of that street? Got, Councillor Early will tell us the name.
It's at the corner of, just north of the corner of Westminster and Westover.
Westover, exactly. So it's a narrow building and it's got 3 dwellings in it, and the parking is going to be from the side. They've tried their best to integrate it into the neighborhood, but the 2 buildings on either side are not really very outstanding in terms of architecture. So they've done the best they can under the circumstances, and we feel that at this point, they made their best efforts, and so we're granting them the ability to put up the structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. So that is moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item 6525 Côte Saint-Luc Road.
Okay, so this is the same penthouse apartment that we were talking about before, but now we're going to adopt the minor exemptions. In accordance with the provisions of bylaw G-18-0005, the request for minor exemption regarding the property located at 6525 Côte Saint-Luc be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated here under. The request is in order to allow an existing multifamily dwelling to have 20 interior parking spaces instead of the minimum required of 65 interior parking spaces, and to have 0 visitor parking spaces instead of the minimum required of 10 visitor parking spaces. I will explain.
So, okay, moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Sabag.
Okay, so this exemption, clearly it's not as a result of just adding 1 unit, because we're taking in 1 penthouse unit and turning it into 2. But the exemption comes from the fact that since the building was originally constructed, we had greater requirements for interior parking. And so that's why there's a discrepancy. Now they have 20 units and the bylaw, the existing bylaw requires 65. But at the time that the building was built, the requirements were not so strict. So they're managing quite well with their 20 spaces, and we're not going to ask them to add any more interior or exterior parking spaces to the ones that are already existing for this building.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item number 15. Stances to be presented at the next Montreal Agglomeration Council meeting, which I'm sure will also be online. Councillor Burku.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, be it resolved that council take the following stance in view of agglomeration council meetings to be held in April 2020 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary in the best interests of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held in April 2020 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Seconded by Councillor Cohen. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move on to item 16, other business. Councillor Ben-Isri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Que le conseil municipal de Côte Saint-Luc adopte et approuve par la présente la définition de l'antisémitisme de l'IRA et exhorte les autres niveaux de gouvernement et autres États à faire de même.
Moved by Councillor Ben-Isri, seconded by Councillor Torgman. Is there any discussion? I'd like to say that this is a very important resolution that we've been encouraging the city of Montreal to pass. Other cities have passed it, and it's a very clear explanation of the various things that represent anti-Semitism. I spoke at the last agglomeration meeting, or 2 agglomeration meetings ago, to Valerie Plante, the mayor of Montreal, reiterating Councillor Lionel Perez's request for the city of Montreal to pass this resolution. And I got the same response, that they're looking into it. I don't see what there is to look into. It's an important position to take by any government that believes in human rights. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay, so moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to the second question period, which we don't have people here, but we do have some
Mr.
questions.
Mayor, I'd like to make another comment on other business if possible.
Absolutely, absolutely, for sure.
I think you'll echo my sentiments that tonight's meeting, of course, being held, I just wonder what Dr. Tonchin would have had to say about this type of meeting. I just think that we should recognize Dr. Bernard Tonchin, who passed away recently and was the ultimate council regular for very many decades. I'm sure others have things to say about him. I knew him from going back to my days as a reporter covering these meetings for the Suburban and the Monitor. And when he ran as a candidate, he was very engaged. And as recently within the last year, he was coming to our meetings, even in very poor health. His very good friend, Irving Ittman, would bring him there. He had vision problems. So we pay tribute to Dr. Tonchin.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. We will miss him greatly. He was the perfect example of somebody who loved his city so much, attending council meetings for 50 years. And at his funeral, there was wonderful tributes to him, and it spoke of his love for his country, his province, and his city. You know, it just won't be the same without seeing him in the audience. We haven't seen him there for a while, but to know that we won't see him there again, sitting there with Mr. Ittman, close to my wife, Elaine, always ready to ask the tough questions, but the important questions, and try to move the city forward in the right direction. So he will be dearly missed. Is there any other question, any other comments? I know that Councillor Burku wanted to talk about testing. I noticed on the side. Go ahead, Councillor Burku.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I noticed that there were many questions on the live chat about testing. And I wanted to say that we have been seriously, looking at this issue, with the COVID-19. We know that there's only one test site for adults on the island of Montreal right now, which is at the Hotel Dieu. There's another test site, which is at Saint-Justine. And we heard today from the Premier Legault and the Chief Medical Officer that they're going to be introducing more testing and more testing. And I could tell you that I started preparing, we worked on a resolution together with Councillor Sebag and others to ask the government to introduce a test site in the West End, and also to introduce drive-through testing as they're doing in South Korea and in Calgary, and as the American government announced today that they want to do drive-through, because that's the only way to go. Has something happened? Because I don't see myself anymore.
I don't know, is the sound clear?
Okay, fine. So in any event, I just wanted to mention that we're working on this. We're going to get in touch with the Ministry of Health, and we are definitely going to ask them to expand their testing sites and to go for either the drive-through or for decentralized sites, because having to go down to Hotel Dieu is quite difficult, and is also increasing the risk of spreading the virus if the people end up having the virus. So we're working on that.
Thank you, Councillor Burku. Anyone else? Okay, I would just like to say that there's been a lot of discussion on what is an acting mayor. So I'll try to make this clear as I do at every council meeting where people come. Under the City and Towns Act, there is a requirement for there to be, at all times, an acting mayor. And each acting mayor's term is 3 months. And that position is there in the case that the mayor, for whatever reason, cannot fulfill their duties. For health reasons, accident, absence, vacation, any reason that the mayor cannot fulfill their duties, you need to have a backup, which is the deputy mayor. They call it acting mayor because that's the translation from French, but perhaps the better explanation would be deputy mayor. And there always is one, there always has been one since the City and Towns Act has been written. So that's what an acting mayor is. I'm glad we were able to do this online and be able to stay in contact with the residents. We as a council will be able to meet with respect to COVID-19 every day at any time without any difficulty using this technology from the safety of our home. And we'll do so because, as you know, the situation changes every day. New rules come into effect, new directives are sent, and we as a city do our best to be proactive, following them and giving suggestions to the other levels of government for them to move forward. The federal government announced today, and I know I was speaking to our Member of Parliament, Anthony Housefather, on many occasions about dealing with our borders. They acted today restricting who can come into Canada. And that's a positive step. Mr. Legault has been very proactive in the measures that he's been taking, closing things like gyms. Who knows what will be the directive tomorrow? But it's all in an effort to make our city, our province, and our country safe. So when we say to you all the things we did tonight, asking you to take care of your loved ones and your friends, asking you to be careful not to infect anybody, to do what you need to do to enjoy life with this new reality, but at the same time, protect each other and do not do anything that could put those you care about and those that you know at risk. So with that being said, I put a close to this. I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Cohen, all in favor. And this first streamed council meeting with new technology is over. Thank you all for attending. We'll see you all soon. Stay safe.